This might be one of those situations where the market actually gives us a second chance at some really, really cool price levels. And it's all because Bitcoin has managed to pump up in exactly the same fashion as something we've done previously. I actually mentioned this at the very beginning of my last video, but I want to cover this with you a little bit more today. This has huge price targets. We're potentially looking at like a $200,000 Bitcoin if we do something similar to what we've done last time. And so far, it is almost exactly the same. It's creepy, actually, how similar this is. So this is going to be a really exciting one. If you're excited for it as well, do me a favor, smash up the likes, do all that good stuff. Check out the link in the description to get your free 30k on Bybit. And let's get into this, because what happened last time, back in, what was this, like 2020, I think it was. 2020, was that over here, Bitcoin had this flash crash down to $3,000 with the COVID-19, scare in March. And after that, the market rallied really strong, right up into the 9k range, but it stayed there. And it stayed there for a really long time, right? In our case, now it's actually stayed there for less time, but previously we were looking at like basically 2.5 months around there of consolidating in exactly the same pattern that we've pulled off just now, coming off very, very similar market structure as well. And that's what makes this really interesting, right? When we look at fractals and we look at them repeating, because I'll tease this a little bit now, spoil it a little bit now. We're looking at this pump. This is what happened last time. So if we look at something similar, we're looking at really big price targets. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. I just wanted to show you that that's where we're getting. But the reason that it's important to cover fractals the way I'm going to do with you now is because if we start seeing that everything leading up to this point has happened in the same way, then it might make you feel a little bit more comfortable in expecting that it will continue to follow or rhyme with what happened previously. And we're talking about this just with shapes, right? Shapes on a chart. But if we start to visualize these charts, not in terms of like, a big candle up and then consolidation and then breaking up, but if we consider these charts as a visual representation of psychology, then actually fractals make a lot of sense. Because when we keep in mind that, the human brain psychology is generally the same, right? Like across the last decades, across the last hundreds of years, across the last thousands and even tens of thousands of years, human psychology has more or less stayed exactly the same. And so fractals make a lot of sense because markets are only a display of where the psychology is. When we get these really big, drops down, this is just excessive fear. When we get these big rallies up, these are opportunistic people feeling greedy, driving the market up. When this happens, everyone's scratching their head, wondering what the fuck is going to happen. And so we're getting similar, repeats of psychology. And when we see that there's such similar market structure on the chart too, it is something to pay attention to. It is definitely something to pay attention to. In fact, nearly 100% of what we've been talking about in terms of like big theories on this channel have been very accurate. For a long time, going back to like summer of last year at least, and so if you've been watching for a while, you'll see that fractals have been something we've spoken about a lot on this channel, and they've had a really like creepy influence on the market. I mean, like too much, like to the point where it's like, what the fuck is going on? And that's why these things are really, really important to keep in mind. Now, I want to outline a couple of the similarities here. On both occasions, we saw a very strong pump after a lot of downside, but that followed with extremely flat sideways trading like what we're looking at right here. And what's really important is that that gave the bears and the bulls a chance to assert their dominance, to assert their authority. And ultimately, on both occasions here now, the bulls had won. And where this gets really interesting is that it did result in a 570% pump to the upside from the breakout point to the next high that we set, right? And this wasn't even the real all-time high for Bitcoin. Bitcoin went another couple $1,000s higher, which was even more impressive as far as Bitcoin price action went. And this all came off the exact same pattern. It's very similar because we also, we're looking at this low right here. This was the flash crash down to 19.7k, where absolutely everybody and their fucking nan were throwing every insult they could imagine at me. And of course now I'm the boy. Everyone's twitched up in the comments. But the fact is, guys, being a trader, when you're right, you're gonna have the whole world at your throat fucking hating you because you're going to be disagreeing with them. 90% of people are going to be losing their money all the time in these markets, which means that if a lot of people always seem to agree with you, don't be surprised that you're losing money most of the time. And I know you are, because everyone's agreeing with you, right? So if everyone's agreeing with you, it means you're making bad decisions. And that's a really, really important thing to keep in mind. I want to give a special shout out to those of you that stayed true with me and stuck with me while it was actually like kind of hard to like keep saying the same stuff, because it's just like when all that fire is coming at you every day, you know, it's kind of hard to stay true to those beliefs. But it's necessary, and I've learned the hard way that if I don't, as a trader, if I make an idea, if I have an idea and I feel some conviction behind it, but I just don't kind of follow through with it because I get cold feet, more often than not, that's a problem. And those of you that are, you know, regular traders, you're gonna know all about that. You know, if you find that you're doubting yourself because of what other people say, you've already messed up. You know, it's better to probably just pack up your shit and go, you know, and then try again next time. But let's bring it back to the charts here. What's also interesting in terms of similarities is not this low, but this one down here. This one came after also a really, really steep crash, and a lot of stuff happened between this low and this consolidation point where the fractal was extremely obvious. But what's important is that in both occasions here, whether it's this occasion that's the present day or this occasion that happened, you know, years back, in both occasions, the market saw a huge cleansing. The market saw a huge cleansing of weak hands selling off their Bitcoin in a very panicked state. You know, really quite, I would say, impressive, you know, selling action, to be honest, in the market back then, and even over here. You know, when we crashed down to 17K, because as we know from a previous video, those of you that are subscribed are gonna, you know, have heard of this, is even a lot of the whales sold their Bitcoin on this crash, right? Like a lot of very rich people have made bad decisions on Bitcoin in the last couple of years as well. It's poetic in light of that now we're up basically 2x from the low that we set. And I think that is absolutely phenomenal, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, you've known that that's what we've been expecting on this channel since the 17K range. I've been very vocal about a $30,000 and $40,000 Bitcoin, and here we are, already hit 30, and potentially getting on our way for the 40K. And let's talk a little bit more about what might happen next now. See, what happened next last time was this huge pump up, but what's really interesting is this right here. Now, it would be really weird if we followed this even more and just kind of like did this now. But if we, you know, because the market spent like a month consolidating up and then came back down. I don't know if that's going to happen, maybe a week or two this time. But if we do something similar where we get this breakout, we spend some time above our resistance area and then return to it after a couple of weeks, I think Bitcoin could be in a really strong position. And what that looks like, let's take a look at this on a different chart. Let's use this one right here. What that would look like is, let's say we're just going to draw a box representing that area of resistance right at the top. We don't need to draw a box for the whole range. Maybe we do something a little bit like this. Something like that would be very, very healthy for the market at this stage. And it would be perfectly in line with rhyming with history. Although, to be honest, this is looking a little bit more like repetition and a little bit less like rhyming. You know, if we did something a little bit like this and then continue to blast off. It's also a little bit more consolidation, which, granted, for you and I is a little bit annoying, right? We want volatility, we want to trade. Don't worry, we're going to get that with altcoins. I think something like this might also kind of open the floodgates for altcoins, because what we'd be seeing then is that Bitcoin kind of stabilizes up here. So that might mean some of that money that's in Bitcoin gets you know, released into the altcoin market as well. And we know very well, you know, how these dynamics work. You know, when everybody is very happy with their Bitcoin holdings, that's when they start feeling greedy. You know, when you make money, you feel even more greed. And when you feel greed and you've already made money, so you feel smart, you know, you start taking additional riskier investments. And if everybody's doing the same thing, then for a time that will work. And that's why we see altcoins performing really well. But if we take a look at dominance, for example, you know, I mean, it's already pulling back a little bit, dominance is very high right now for Bitcoin. Dominance is above my range. You know, and if we look at this on the weekly chart right here, the high that we set is actually pretty much exactly the same high that we set basically, you know, 2 years ago, like 34. What am I talking about? 2 years was 22 months ago, something like that. That we were over here, and you know, dominance is already pulling back. And if this is something that sticks, if we see dominance actually like drop like a stone, like what happened every time previously, you know, then that spells amazing, crazy opportunities for altcoins. I mean, face melting rallies. Because the thing about these coins is, if only a little bit of money from Bitcoin goes into altcoins, those altcoins are going to explode. You know, they're just small. They're small coins, right? So Bitcoin getting liquidated into alts always results in really big pumps. And that's why I started up the second YouTube channel. You can check it out. It's the first link in the description down below. You can check it out with that link. And you can also get your Bybit bonus down here as well. It's available to everybody, even if you already have an account. You can make a brand new one and still get access to this free trading ammunition. All you got to do is make your first deposit and start trading. And if you've signed up using my link when you've done that, you will get that bonus credited into your account. It's just free money you can trade with. Any profits are yours to keep. You can withdraw. But for that second channel, exclusively focusing on altcoins, check it out with that link down in the description below. Absolutely huge move there. Definitely essential viewing for the opportunities that are coming up right now. And I think that's where a lot of those opportunities will start to open up, is, you know, with a bit of sideways price action for Bitcoin, you know, potentially resulting in people just kind of looking, you know, left and right, like, you know, what's up? Like, what's going on? People looking around them, seeing what's, you know, what's happening in the space, and then alts start to move. And so that kind of triggers a, you know, an effect of fear of missing out. Because here's the thing, is everyone's already missed the Bitcoin pump, right? Like, if you have missed the Bitcoin pump, you know, then you're kind of wondering like what to do next. And that's why altcoins can actually look pretty good. And I did tease an altcoin strategy video. I'll tell you guys a little bit about that in a future video. I know that you guys really wanted that because you all told me in the comments last time. If you are looking forward to it, smash up the likes and make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss it. Make sure you've got the bell icon checked as well so you get notified when I upload it. But with this kind of consolidation, that is where you know, bigger opportunities can open up in the market. And where it's even cooler is that if we do continue to rhyme with history, then that means we even get a retest of this level, which would actually be an amazing area to go long on Bitcoin. If we look at the historic chart, this was huge. You know, when we went up here, just looking at this very basic resistance area, expecting it to flip into support, which is page 1, chapter 1 of every, you know, of any technical analysis book. This is as simple as TA gets. Old resistance, when we get above it, should turn into new support. You know, now that you know, at that point, now that happened, this was you know, the best long entry you could have ever had on Bitcoin. You know, pretty much. I mean, Bitcoin never went back down to these price levels. In fact, Bitcoin started its rally from here to $64,000 right at this point. It just never pulled back here, you know. And if we look at something similar to that happening right now again, then yeah, that does put us, you know, towards $193,000 Bitcoin. You know, another 568% pump, which is exactly what we saw last time, would put us in the 6 digits. I'm sorry, yeah, that is 6 digits. And what's really cool is, obviously, we expect these moves to fade over time. We expect them to be a little bit less intense. So if we're looking at a 570% pump becoming even half of that, we're still in the 6 digits. We're still going to be above $100,000. And that's what's really cool about this price action, in my opinion, is that, you know, if this is actually legit, and if this is actually how this market is going to turn out, then we're gonna be in a really good place, you know, maybe like a year from now. And that does, you know, make things quite exciting. So if you do something similar to this right now, amazing long, really, really good setup here. I think that given the market has moved up really nicely, you know, we might need a deeper pullback, but at the same time, this was a really long period of consolidation. And because it was such a long period of consolidation, I don't want to go out saying that, you know, we haven't corrected enough. because we've had such a long period of consolidation, that might be precisely why we don't need to pull back in a steeper fashion, which is why this support level might be all the more important and well worth taking note of. Now, of course, I won't be going long off a level like that. You guys know the deal. I shared the details of my trade inside of 𝗤𝗡𝗡𝗡's VIP and inside of 𝗤𝗡𝗡𝗡's Gold. You can join both by following these links in the description down below. This is something that you guys have been able to use to see exactly what I'm trading, and I've been in my long position now for a really long time. I've shown you how I entered it. When I entered it, this was a really long time ago now that I entered this long position back at $21,500. So I don't need to enter up here. Still in over $180,000, $190,000 profit. It really doesn't matter when you get to such high, ridiculously high profit numbers. You kind of just don't care anymore. You just let it keep running until you have a good reason to not let it keep running. And I still haven't seen that reason, so I'm still expecting this to continue rallying. If I was a riskier trader, I would probably add to my position down here, but I'm not, and I actually consider myself pretty conservative, even though I trade on leverage. As far as crypto traders go, I'm very conservative. I learned from a traditional finance background. My mentors were traditional finance people, not crypto people, so thankfully, I'm not an idiot like most of the crypto people in this space, and I have a real sense of risk, and I respect my capital. So I won't be adding more to my position. I don't think that's a sensible thing to do. My philosophy is whatever I entered the trade with is all I'm going to trade with, and if it wasn't enough, then tough shit. I will just put more money in next time, but I will not. I will not ever add capital to a position, at least not right now. I'm just not comfortable. I don't think that's the right thing to do.